off this list, in our number 10 spot, we have a pile of bones. During the 19th century, bison were hunted so much that they were actually quite close to being extinct, and by the mid-1880s there were only a few hundred left. Hides were prepared and then shipped off so that they could be made into leather, but usually the bones, or really anything other than the hide, was just left to decay, as it wasn't useful to the hunters. The hunting of bison was so widespread and overwhelming that even the US Army sanctioned and endorsed the slaughter of herds of bison. The federal government was promoting it for a variety of reasons, including to lessen a food and material source for the indigenous peoples. The US government was even paying a bounty for each bison skull, and military commanders were ordering troops to kill bison, not for them to eat, but just so that the indigenous couldn't. That story, coupled with the sheer mass amounts of skulls seen in this photo, is exactly what makes it so exceptionally unsettling. These bones would likely be on their way to become fertilizer. In our number 9 spot today, we have the great manta. In 1933, a New York silk manufacturer named A.L. Kahn was on a nice little vacation in Florida when he honestly accidentally caught something remarkable. His anchor line, by mistake, caught onto a giant manta ray. After a struggle and several hours, Kahn was able to get this actually enormous fish ashore. This monster was somewhere between 5,000 to 6,000 pounds and was 20 feet and 5 inches in width. For reference, there are other giant manta rays, but they usually grow to be around 13 to 14 feet wide, not 20 and a half. This photo is showing a taxidermy version of the fish, which Kahn used to bring around to exhibitions to show off his accidental catch. In an article from the December 10th, 1933 issue of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch's Sunday magazine, Kahn is quoted as saying, quote, "Fishing is a lot of fun when you catch the fish. And sometimes it's fun even when you don't, but when the fish catches you." In our number 8 spot today, we have the swimsuits. This is a photo that comes to us from the 1920s, and it shows just one of the many extremely important jobs that the quote beach patrol of the day had. Yes, they went around measuring the length between a woman's knee and the bottom of her swimsuit because God forbid she showed too much leg at the beach. In the 1920s, bathing suits began to become something that went through changes and fads, and of course this evolution to more form-fitting, less material swimwear caused a lot of controversy in the day. There were then strict dress codes implemented at places like resorts and country clubs, and even directors of public beaches had them, thus the beach patrol. There were fines for violations and sometimes even imprisonment. In the Washington Post in 1907, there was a photo of 2 women in bathing suits being escorted by an officer with a caption, quote, "These apologies for skirts endanger the morals of the children. The police must interfere and stop the outrageous proceedings." In most cases, these sorts of rules really only affected the women of the time, and sometimes women were even required to wear stockings under their bathing suits. I'm just saying, with my attitude, I would have not done well in the 1920s. There was even one beach who had a tailor go around and stitch up swimsuits that they felt weren't up to the dress code. In our number 7 spot today, we have the advertisement. This is a photo that comes to us from a time of World War II, and it shows a terrifying ad. The sign reads, "These men didn't take their atabrine," and at first I had absolutely no idea what that was. Turns out atabrine is the first synthetic form of quinine, which was used by the US military to fight malaria in the South Pacific during the war. It is estimated that as many as 2/3 of the troop fell ill with malaria. This sign is said to have been posted outside of a military hospital in New Guinea and was meant to serve as a warning for those who didn't take the medicine, warning that the skulls on top would be the fate that awaited them. Perhaps a little dark, but creative and likely effective nonetheless. At the very least, the ad is quite clear. In our number 6 spot today, we have the Ferris Wheel of Hate. This is a photo that, honestly, I don't even know what to say about it. It's gross, it's weird, it's upsetting, and it's honestly just so stupid. For a long time this photo went under the radar as the photographer who took it didn't share it with the paper, but when it resurfaced 65 years later, it spread like wildfire, and for a lot different reasons than it would have back then, thankfully, but it also reveals some of those blind spots in history that we have. This photo comes from April of 1926, and it shows some members of the KKK just enjoying a day at an amusement park with many of them on a Ferris Ferris wheel. I wish this was one of those times where something went horribly wrong and the whole thing came crashing down, but unfortunately that likely isn't what happened on this day, and now we just have this relic that shows us the insane power and influence that this hate group had during this time. While this photo is very dark, it's an important part of history to remember. Also, before we move on, let's just take a second to talk about how stupid they all look. Like, we gotta wear our little matching outfits to the Ferris wheel. In our number 5 spot today, we have early plastic surgery. This photo, well, rather these two photos side by side, show a man named Walter Yeo, and he was the first person to receive the, at the time advanced, plastic surgery procedure called the skin flap. Sounds disgusting. He received this procedure in 1917, and at the time, since it was so advanced, it was only used for very serious things, like for someone who was wounded in battle, which is exactly what had happened to Walter. He was a soldier in the Battle of Jutland during the First World War. Walter was actually a sailor, and he was manning the guns aboard the HMS Warspite, and while doing this, he sustained facial injuries that included the loss of his upper and lower eyelids. In the end, he needed a couple more operations, but he was even able to return to service for a little while before being medically discharged. After this, he lived his life until he reached the age of 70 years old. In our number 4 spot today, we have the Hindenburg. This is a photo that was taken during what is now known as the Hindenburg disaster. It is commonly known that blimps, or these kinds of floating airships, use helium in them to float through the air, and it's important to note that this helium isn't the choice because it's the only option, but rather it's one of the safest options because it isn't extremely volatile. Because of a US ban on the exportation of helium at the time, i.e. the Helium Control Act of 1925, although the Hindenburg was designed to use helium, because of a lack of it available, on the day of the Hindenburg disaster, the much more flammable hydrogen was used instead. This led to a complete disaster. When the Hindenburg floated off on May 6, 1937, it disastrously caught fire during its flight with 97 people on board. Sadly, due to the fire, there were 35 casualties on board the flight that day. It is an absolutely horrendous situation, but it does teach us all a very valuable lesson. In our number 3 spot today, we have the Falls. This is a photo of Annie Edison Taylor when she was 63 years old in 1901. The barrel she is posing beside is the one that she sealed herself up inside of to then become the first person to survive a trip over Niagara Falls. Why did she do this? Well, for money, of course. Annie was widowed and spent a lot of time bouncing between different jobs, but after having been burned out of her home and losing money that she had invested with a clergyman, she ended up sadly falling on some hard times, and this is what led her to the Falls. The barrel she used was custom made, and it was constructed of oak and iron and padded with a mattress. It wasn't exactly easy to get this whole plan set up, and it ended up being delayed several times, mostly because people were afraid to be a part of this mission that was likely sending Annie to her death, and I truly don't blame them at all. On October 24th, 1901, her 63rd birthday, Annie climbed in the barrel with her heart-shaped pillow and was set adrift. The river currents carried the barrel over the Canadian Horseshoe Falls, and rescuers reached her barrel shortly after. She was alive and escaped with little to no injuries aside from a gash on her head. While her survival is great news, it's important to include what Annie had to say about the entire situation after, which was, quote, "If it was with my dying breath, I would caution anyone against attempting the feat. I would sooner walk up to the mouth of a cannon knowing it was going to blow me to pieces than make another trip over the falls." So don't try this at home, is what she's saying. In our number 2 spot today, we have War is Hell. This is a photo of a soldier that was taken during the Vietnam War. The soldier has a hand-scribed note on their helmet that reads, quote, "War is hell," and I truly cannot even imagine. In 1954, the US entered the war to support South Vietnam against the regime in North Vietnam, as well as their allies in the South. This war lasted for 2 decades, and it claimed more than 3 million lives, mostly those of Vietnamese civilians. There are many powerful, disturbing, and unsettling photos from this war, many of which I would consider too graphic to put here on YouTube. There is something about the brightness of the eyes of the soldier that sits in contrast with the rest of this dark photo that really make it stand out. For a while, the identity of this soldier was left a mystery, but after some years, Fran Chafin Morrison revealed that the soldier was her late husband, Larry Wayne Chaffin. Larry served for a year in the 173rd Brigade, beginning in May 1965, and when this this photo was taken, he was just 19 years old. He did end up being discharged from the army and was able to return home to his wife. He sadly ended up passing away at the young age of 39, thought to be because of complications due to the exposure to Agent Orange, but his legacy has lived on. There's an incredible photo of his grandson who looks strikingly similar to his grandfather, holding this exact portrait. In our number 1 spot today we have the cross. This photo comes to us from 1960 and it shows Martin Luther King Jr. along with his infant son at the time removing a cross that had been burnt on his front lawn. This photo is important and powerful for quite a few reasons. Firstly, it's just a glimpse into what Mr. King would have dealt with every single day for many years. It is clear by his almost nonchalant look that this isn't something new or surprising. It's also important to note, however, that this look isn't one of acceptance or content, or of someone who is unbothered, but instead it's the look of someone who continually chooses to rise above, someone who chooses to remain calm and cool in the face of adversity, the leader of a movement. As a Reddit user, 1945 Best Year put so well, quote, "Here he's a father, a man with a family whose lives are being threatened. He isn't hysterical or obviously afraid, and his towering figure literally rooting out the undesirable foe has been done in any number of war propaganda posters, but he's still sympathetic. He deserves the security of knowing that home will be safe for his children like anybody else."
Starting off this countdown, we have Get Out of My Swamp. That was my failed Shrek impression. But isn't this photo super trippy? Like on the left we got Shrek Swamp where he likes to take a dip in the algae, and on the right it's crystal frickin' clear. How is it possible that a single fallen tree divides the swamp like that? It's pretty cool, but insane. It literally looks like the tree is what's separating these two universes. Which universe would you want to be in? The one on the left, the duckweed algae universe, or the one on the right, the clear, calm universe? But seriously, it's insane how one tiny fallen tree partitioned the lake like that. Moving on to number 9, we have the mind-bending art. No, this photo is not Photoshop at all. This is a piece of work created by artist George Roos. He is known for creating quite mind-bending art. He has gone to a number of different abandoned spaces and created pieces like this, where it looks like you're in 2 different dimensions. The colorful fun dimension or the white and gray dull one. It's crazy how he does this only by using paint. My eyes literally can't comprehend this at all. The only thing is though, you have to be in the right location to view the image as so. From other angles, it will look messy. I don't care though, the fact that this guy is skilled enough to do this is enough for me. This literally looks like a portal to another dimension. Moving on to number 8, we have the Mexican mole lizard. I'm sorry, but hands down, this creature has to be from another universe. Just look at it. It looks like a naked mole rat, a snake, and a worm all got it on with each other, and this was the end result. Like, I genuinely feel uncomfortable looking at it. In fact, it's so unbelievable that it was even featured in Ripley's Believe It or Not, because no one can believe this is a real creature. So this lizard creature only has 2 arms. It doesn't have any hind legs. You know, like a normal lizard. And these guys can grow up to 9.4 inches or 24 centimeters. Like, that's insane and creepy. So basically, in another dimension, they have lizards that look like worms. Or should I say, in another dimension, they have worms that have faces and claws. Nana. In our 7th spot today, we have Schönbrunn Park. Hopefully I pronounced that right. If not, you guys are gonna come for me. It's okay. From the 18th to 19th century, the Schönbrunn Palace in Vienna, Austria was home to a number of emperors. The grounds were originally used as a small hunting lodge, but during 1683 it got destroyed during the Turkish attacks. As a result, it was rebuilt into something bigger and better for Maria Theresa, not Mother Teresa. She was an empress of that time and received the estate as a wedding gift, and everything had to be perfect, including the gardens. The palace was surrounded by beautiful Baroque gardens. The trees and hedges were planted in 1750 and go for over 30 kilometers. Every year, the gardeners use these specially constructed frames to get to the top of the trees and trim them so they look eerily perfect. This takes 7 months. I will repeat, 7 months to complete. That's insane. The way that all the trees line up perfectly is mind-blowing. It's very trippy. Also, count how many times I said trippy in this video and let me know in the comments below. But literally, it looks like this was shot in a parallel universe. Moving on to number 6, we have the frozen pond. Okay, this has to be the prettiest photo on this list. This is a frozen pond in Switzerland, and look how it froze over. In Canada, when lakes or ponds freeze over, it's just a solid sheet of ice. But this made a very detailed design. Literally, someone explained this to me. How come ice in Canada isn't this cool? This has to have been taken in a parallel universe. So there's a couple of explanations for this. One is that it froze like that because of the wind and water current. 2 is that the water in Switzerland is magical. 3, the ice sheets broke and then refroze together. But I'm gonna go with number 2. The water in Switzerland is magical. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the lenticular clouds, aka the clouds from another dimension, or some people call them the UFO clouds. So these clouds typically form when the air is stable and winds blow across hills or mountains at different heights throughout the first and lowest layer of Earth's atmosphere, the troposphere. But sometimes these clouds have formed in places without mountains or hills. So what's going on with that? Not only that, but these clouds tend to stay in one place, the place that they are formed. Honestly, this is my first time hearing about these clouds and they're pretty crazy. Like, why don't they teach us this in school? So hands down, in alternate universes they have funky odd shaped clouds that don't really act like clouds. You know what I'm saying? In our 4th spot today we have the melting building. Located at 39 Avenue in Paris, this building appears to be melting. Let me explain. So back in the day, this building was in need of some fixing. Instead of having ugly scaffolding on display, photographer Pierre Delavie took some pictures from when the building was in its original form and then printed that onto a canvas. But what he also did was take the building and distort it a little so that it would capture the public's eye. Then they hung up the canvas at the front of the house. So behind it was all the construction and scaffolding, but people would never know. This way they would walk the streets in awe instead of being disgusted by the under construction house. Unfortunately, if you had plans to visit this building today, you can't. The construction is now done and the canvas has since been removed. But I'm telling you, maybe they got trippy little houses like this in other universes. Maybe all the houses there look like they're from Whoville. Coming in at number 3 we have the Snake Man. Have you ever been eating noodles and then you sneeze or laugh so hard that the noodle shoots up the back of your throat and out your nose? No? That what? Probably. It hasn't happened to you? Lucky, it's not fun at all. Well, in another universe, noodles aren't coming out of people's noses. No, snakes are. Okay, are you seeing what I'm seeing? My first question is why? My second question is why? And third is, are you out of your mind? I don't understand why this man thought putting a snake in his mouth and out his nose was a good idea. Now, there are a number of reasons why that is absolutely terrible. Not only that, but the poor snake had to go through all that as well. And he looks pissed as hell. Like, look at him, he's ready to attack, you know? Anyways, this photo is so unbelievable that it seems as if it has come from a parallel universe. One where people don't have any common sense. Honestly, no. Snakes don't belong in any orifice. No. Moving on to number 2, we have the color blocked kitty. Hands down, this is the prettiest kitty I have ever seen in my entire life. And no, this image is not photoshopped. This cat not only has heterochromia with their blue and green colored eyes, but also has 2 different completely opposite fur colors. It's crazy how the cat is just split right down the middle. She is literally half of her mom and half of her dad. Her parents must have been a black cat with green eyes and a ginger cat with blue eyes. Genetics is just super weird, man, and I want this cat as my pet. I just wonder what her offsprings would look like though. And in our number 1 spot today we have the Bajau tribe. How long can you hold your breath underwater? Did anyone say 13 minutes? Well, the Bajau tribe of Southeast Asia can hold their breath for around 13 minutes. And that's not them just being still underwater. That's them swimming around underwater and hunting for fish. In fact, they can dive down 30 to 50 feet without any diving equipment. They even have been known to walk directly along the sea floor. This image is of a child from the tribe. He's underwater playing with a shark or a fish. I literally can't tell if that's a shark or a fish. Is that child just a beast and is taking that shark down? Or is he holding onto a fish and getting a free ride? Anyways, these individuals have evolved to have an extra large spleen that is filled with oxygen-rich blood cells. That's what allows them to stay underwater swimming around for a long period of time without coming up for air once. But it seems as if they're from another universe. One where humans can breathe underwater. I would love to breathe underwater. Smash the like button if you agree.
Starting off this countdown, we have SpongeBob. Who here is a fan of the sponge that lives in a pineapple under the sea? SpongeBob SquarePants. So if you answered yes, then have you seen the 2004 SpongeBob movie? The one where the two goofy goobers, SpongeBob and Patrick, set out to return King Neptune's crown to save Mr. Krabs, and then Plankton tries to take over and yeah. Well, if you've seen this, then in one of the final scenes, there's this whole musical number where SpongeBob rocks out to Goofy Goober. At one point, he bursts into a wizard outfit in white boots while rocking on a guitar. Well, take a look at this image. Do you remember SpongeBob playing on a white electric guitar or a weird peanut one? Let me know. I remember him holding a white electric guitar, but apparently that's not right, and he always had a peanut guitar. No, just no, that's not right. We fully switched universes because SpongeBob never had that guitar, I swear. Moving on to number 9, we have Cheez-Its. But apparently, that tasty cheese cracker is not called Cheez-Its, it's Cheez-It. Either I've been saying it wrong my entire life, or this is proof that we live in a parallel universe. Like, do you remember it being Cheez-It or Cheez-Its? Because honestly, Cheez-It doesn't make sense to me. It needs to be plural because there's more than just one cracker in the box. Now I'm just getting mad here, but someone's out there playing with us, I swear. Moving on at number 8, we have these circle clouds. Ever wondered what life is like in another universe? Well, they might just have circular clouds. Yeah, you heard me. Look at this real image of a circular cloud. Honestly, if I saw that, I would panic thinking that the end is near. Like, it's cool, but also, it's not right. Like, that's a glitch in the Matrix or something. Mother Nature is glitching. Or maybe that's what normal clouds look like in a parallel universe. Who knows at this point? In our 7th spot, we have the twins. Except the guys in this photo aren't twins. They're not even related. Yet they somehow dressed up in identical outfits and appeared at the same place, both reading newspapers. How creepy is that? Like, they even have the same haircut and hairline. Like, what is going on? I mean, the sweater is identical, same brand and logo and color. What are the odds? The only difference is that the man on the left is wearing black socks and the man on the right is wearing white socks. One of them is from a parallel universe for sure. It's the same dude, just our universe is glitching or merging with other universes or something like that. Coming in at number 6, we have the green KFC. So we all know that the KFC colors are red and white, right? Well, not at this KFC location. Since when does KFC have a green building? Hell no, that makes me uncomfortable. Even Colonel Sanders is wearing a green apron thing instead of a red one. That's not normal. That KFC is in another universe, I swear. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the photo glitch. Okay. Someone needs to explain this photo to me. It's not edited at all. The girl just somehow appeared to be gray in the photo. Like, it looks fake, am I right? How is that possible? Unless her goal was to be a gray Santa. This one just hurts my brain. Like, if anyone can genuinely explain this photo, then let me know in the comments below. Like, how did she appear colorless when everyone else in the photo is in color? I feel like I'm tripping out. Moving on at number 4, we have C-3PO. Who here is a fan of Star Wars? Hit that thumbs up button if you are. Well, a lot of die-hard fans were shook when they found out that C-3PO does not have an entirely gold body. That's right, apparently he's always had one silver leg. Okay, then explain this to me. How come when I was little, I had a C-3PO figurine that had 2 gold legs, okay? Someone explain that to me. What do you remember though? Apparently, a ton of fans just remember C-3PO being entirely golds. So, is our memory failing us, or are we universe jumping? In our 3rd spot, we have the Berenstain Bears. Okay, disclaimer. Buckle your seatbelts because I'm about to get heated and passionate for this one. So, do you remember the classic kids book being the Berenstain Bears or the Berenstain Bears? Because I remember it being the Berenstain Bears, spelled S-T-E-I-N. But no, I've been living a life of lies and deceit because apparently it's always been the Berenstain Bears. Stain, S-T-A-I-N. What? But I'm not the only one. Thousands of others remember it being the Berenstain Bears. So, theory goes that there are parallel universes out there, In this case, we have the Steen universe and the Stain universe. We lived in the Steen universe during the 90s when the books were out, but then later on, we somehow shifted into the Stain universe. Somehow, the universe ended up overlapping with ours, which is why we remember the Steen books, because they were real, but just in another universe. It's just driving me insane. Like, it was the Baron Steen bears. Okay, why would it be Stain? It doesn't make any sense, okay? Like if you agree, And at number 2, we have the Looney Tunes. Here's another one that will drive you mad. Or should I say, drive you loony. Sorry, I'll stop with the dad jokes. But do you remember the classic cartoon being Looney Tunes, Toons, or Looney Tunes, Tunes? I remember it being Tunes, spelled with 2 O's. And that makes sense because it's a cartoon. But no, apparently it's tunes, like a music tune, which makes no sense again. Hello, it's a cartoon, not a music tune. I just want to go back to the Tunes universe, like the Toons universe, because everything just makes more sense there, okay? They probably don't have COVID there, just saying. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the Mona Lisa. Okay, this one really tripped me out. But do you remember the Mona Lisa having a little smirk on her face or a serious face? I remember her always having a slight smirk, not a huge smile, but just a little something, you know? But in high school, I was taught that she was serious and she didn't smile in the portrait. But get this, in a movie from 1931, it shows the Mona Lisa smiling. This movie is called The Theft of the Mona Lisa. Here's a clip from it. Now, of course, they didn't use the real Mona Lisa for the film, but wouldn't you think that they would get an exact replica for the film? Meaning that she had a smile. Because why all of a sudden would they use a Mona Lisa where she's smiling? Unless back in the day, she was smiling in the portrait, and then somehow we're now in a universe where in the painting, she didn't smile. Okay? But that's not all. In a 1962 Looney Tunes episode titled Louvre Come Back to Me, we can also again see the Mona Lisa smiling.
I can tell you chaps one thing. It's not always easy to hold this smile.
In the clip, she literally says, I can tell you one thing. It's not always easy to hold a smile. Bam! It's just proof that at one point, the Mona Lisa did have a smile. You see how worked up I get over this? Something's going on here. We're in a parallel universe. It's tripping me out.
Starting off this countdown, we have Jeffrey Bezos. In 2019, the founder of Amazon, Jeff Bezos, admitted that his nudes almost got leaked. Basically, someone got a hold of some steamy text messages and nudes that he sent to his girlfriend, and they tried to blackmail him with it. But before they could do so, he came out and admitted what he had done, and he described it in detail. One of his texts said, and I quote, "I love you alive, girl. I will show you with my body and my lips and my eyes very soon." Now, any person, celebrity, billionaire or not, probably doesn't want their nudes getting leaked. On top of that, Jeff was married at the time that this information came out, so it looked pretty bad on him. But he claims that he was separated from his wife before dating his new lady. Either way, Bezos didn't want us to see that side of him, and frankly, I don't want to either. In our 9th spot, we have naked Prince Harry. Before Harry met Meghan, he was quite the wild royal and troublemaker. Back in 2012, naked photos of Harry partying up during his trip in Las Vegas got leaked online. Prince Harry was photographed playing a game of strip billiards with his friends in his VIP suite. In the photo, we see Harry holding his junk, while a naked girl stands behind him holding him. In another photo, we see the backside of Harry with his arms wrapped around the naked girl. I wonder what the Queen had to say when she saw these photos. Yikes. Coming in at number 8, we have Bill Clinton. It's no surprise that a number of high-up, powerful, wealthy individuals had ties with Jeffrey Epstein, including Bill Clinton. If you don't know the whole Jeffrey Epstein scandal, I suggest you look into it, but it's hella dark and disturbing. He forced a number of young individuals into doing things with him and his friends and anyone else with a lot of money. It's believed that Bill knew what Jeffrey was doing and was a part of some of it. Here is a photo of Bill with one of Jeffrey's victims, Shantae Davies. When the photo was taken, Davies was only 22 years old. She is seen rubbing Clinton's shoulders while they all wait for their plane to Africa in 2002. Apparently, it was Ghislaine Maxwell's idea for the young girl to help Bill out with his stiff back and give him a massage. Although Davies said that that's the most intimate that she got with Bill, it's still a very compromising photo of him. Having connections with Epstein in the first place tarnishes his reputation, one of the reasons why he has tried to bury this part of his past. Moving on at number 7, we have topless Mark Zuckerberg. Okay, well, seeing a guy topless is nothing scandalous, but a picture of Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook, shirtless? Well, apparently Mark was really embarrassed when this photo got leaked, and his coworker that leaked it accidentally got in trouble. Let's take a look at this photo, shall we? Sorry, Mark. This photo was taken at some weird private party. Shirtless Mark is surrounded by a number of other shirtless dudes. Like I said, it's not even a bad photo, but Mark was not happy about it going around. Apparently, it was accidentally posted by Facebook's director of engineering, Andrew Bosworth. As soon as he realized it had been leaked, he took it down immediately, but the internet was too fast and screenshotted it. In our 6th spot, we have the Bohemian Grove. The Bohemian Grove is a secret and controversial club that meets in the California woods every year. The club consists of a number of rich men. Among the attendees are past and present presidents, government members, and business leaders. It's kept very hush-hush. What happens at this retreat thing stays there. Some say it's a cult, where they do human sacrifices among other illegal and spooky things. But since no one has yet infiltrated the club, we still don't really know what goes on there. But there are some photos that have gotten leaked, like pictures of a number of the men in weird cloaks surrounding a burning effigy, to pictures of some of the members seated around a huge dining table. Since this club is so controversial, I doubt the members want their pictures from the club leaked. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with Mark Zuckerberg surfing. I'm pretty sure you all have seen this photo of Mark surfing in Hawaii. It became a viral photo and a meme. Why? Well, because Mark has way too much sunscreen on his face. He really packed that on all over his face, and it left a very noticeable white cast. I mean, good for him for taking sun safety seriously, and you know, skin cancer is no joke. But due to the fact that he became a laughingstock over the photo, I bet he didn't want anyone seeing those photos in the first place. Plus, it kind of ruins his reputation. Like, it's hard to take him seriously with that photo floating around, and all the jokes associated with it. Coming in at number 4, we have Kate Middleton's topless pictures. Looks like Harry isn't the only one in the royal family to stir up some controversy. Back in 2012, Kate and William were in France vacationing when the paparazzi took some photos of the pair. In the photos, Kate was suntanning and she was topless. The paparazzi then sold the photos to the French magazine Closer, who then published them. Obviously, she and the rest of the royal family were horrified and took legal action. In the end, the magazine company had to pay 100,000 euros in damages for publishing the photos. And 2 staff members were fined an additional 90,000 euros to pay to Kate Middleton and Prince William. Pretty sure every copy of this photo has been destroyed. And for Kate's sake and privacy, let's hope it stays that way. In our 3rd spot, we have Barack Obama's party. I didn't know Barack Obama was a big partier, but these photos prove otherwise. Just this year, Barack Obama threw a huge birthday bash for his 60th birthday. But it caused quite the uproar. Why? Well, photos from that night show a room packed full of maskless people in the middle of the pandemic. Especially since Barack is a huge political figure, you would think that he would set a good example, or at least practice what he's been preaching. Either way, Obama was under fire after photos of him dancing at this epic party were posted. In our 2nd spot, we have Prince Harry's inappropriate costume. Prince Harry was quite the royal troublemaker back in the day, making headlines with a number of scandals. Well, back in 2005, Harry was seen dressed up in a soldier uniform while attending a costume party. The costume consisted of wearing a red Nazi insignia on his left arm. Here are some of the photos from that night. Not only that, but he was photographed drinking and smoking in the outfit, which looks really freaking bad on the royal family. In the end, Prince Harry did apologize, saying, and I quote, "I am very sorry if I caused any offense or embarrassment to anyone. It was a poor choice of costume and I apologize." Let's just say that this is definitely one picture that Harry certainly wants to leave in the past. And in our number one spot today we have Bill Gates. Bill Gates is another wealthy man who had ties with Jeffrey Epstein. Photographed here is a picture of the two at Jeffrey's Manhattan mansion in 2011. Over the years, Bill has denied his relationship with Jeffrey, but the two were friendlier than he likes to admit. Apparently, the first time they met was in 2011 after Epstein pleaded guilty to some of his crimes. But that didn't stop Bill from becoming close with him. He then proceeded to hang out with him on a number of different occasions. He went to Epstein's Manhattan town at least 3 times, one of those times being late at night. What were you doing there, Bill, so late, huh? He also flew on Epstein's plane a couple of times. In 2019, Gates said, and I quote, "I met him. I didn't have any business relationship or friendship with him." Which clearly wasn't the truth because they met repeatedly. But anyways, it seems like Bill doesn't want anyone to see any photos that he has with Jeffrey. He doesn't want to get roped into the legal and disturbing things that Epstein was into.
Kicking off the list at number 10, the largest known comet. Comet Bernardelli-Bernstein. What a name right there. Okay, what a find as well, may I add. June 23rd, 2021, so pretty recently, Pedro Bernardinelli was a grad student and researcher. He was originally observing outer solar system objects like trans-Neptunian objects, stuff like that, but thanks to dark matter, he ended up finding this mega comet instead, which is pretty sweet. He's like, sure, I'll take it, let's look into it. So he went to his advisor, a cosmologist named Gary Bernstein, and he told him to look into it. Like to literally look into it. 10 times wider than a typical comet. This thing is huge. Last time it was near our sun was a good 3 million years ago, and now it's back. Well, in 10 years it'll be close. So get your wishes ready. All you have to do is say the comet's name 3 times fast, and you're set. Good luck. Bernardinelli-Bernstein, Bernardinelli-Bernstein, Bernardinelli-Bernstein. Yes! That's a hard name to say. I was Googling it and I'm like, oh man, I love your names. Great observation and all, but actually no, that's great. That's a pretty sick name. I would name a comet my last name. McWaters, easy. Number 9, the unicorn. Not to be confused with Unicron, although both are equally scary, I'd say. The unicorn is the closest black hole to Earth. But don't panic, it's not gonna, turn us into spaghetti anytime soon, so we're good. The unicorn gallops 1,500 light years away from Earth. It's far away, and it's also pretty small. It's a tiny black hole, so it's extremely hard to find. That's why telescopes like James Webb will come in handy, so we can identify more of these little guys. Researchers were able to find the unicorn because a near star, a red giant for that matter, had its light shifting towards something. It's always special when you see sunlight just doing this, just melting towards something. You're like, okay, let's take a look. So they named it the unicorn because it's also tucked away in the unicorn constellation, Monoceros. The fact that it's rare also inspired the name, so yeah, it's a win-win. They're like, unicorn? Wait, can we do this? This is perfect. Also, please don't turn us into spaghetti. Thank you so much. Stay away. Number 8, a new star. Our sun is around 4.5 billion years old. Not that there's anything wrong with that, she's still young at heart, but this new star over here, whew, she's hot. This protostar, during its crazy cosmic birth, jets of gas are now whipping through space at impossible speeds, and it's beautiful. Now we get to look at it and go, wow. Thumbs up. When this material collides with the matter of the still forming star, what's created is called a Herbig-Barrow object. Hubble captured it and it is glorious. We're gonna get even more beautiful shots once James Webb warms up later on this year. So this is really, it's kind of like nothing. Just wait. Number 7, the Veil Nebula. While most subjects on this list are far away from us, the Veil Nebula you can see with a common pair of binoculars on clear conditions. Today we're going with NASA's Hubble telescope view. They got a pretty good look at this gas giant. What you see here is 5 different layers of ionized gases. This cloud is floating around 2,100 light years away. In order to get a photo of the entire nebula, it would be, well, near impossible. See, the Veil Nebula spans 130 light years wide, which is around 100 times larger than our own solar system. So yeah, binoculars ought to do it. You'll see it somewhere. It's pretty big. Number 6, total eclipse. This total eclipse was not of the heart, but it did occur back in December 2021. not long ago at all. If you didn't see a total eclipse a few months ago, don't worry, we all missed out. I mean, unless you live in Antarctica, we all missed out on this one. This was hard to catch. For a halfway point, I figured I'd throw in a relatable, nice, yet still haunting feature. This Deep Space Climate Observatory satellite snapped a pic, and honestly, it looks like the poster of Independence Day. This is real and very scary. This massive shadow of the moon just slowly moving across the land, like the Goosebumps intro. God, it's haunting to look at. Dark spot on the move, like something out of Star Wars almost. The next total eclipse will occur April 8th, 2024. This time it'll be in Canada, US, and Mexico. All those places will go dark, so get your flashlights ready. I'm already nervous. Number 5, M64. M64, aka the Evil Eye Galaxy, aka the Sleeping Beauty Galaxy, which is a lot nicer. I think we should call it that from now on, definitely. This one might be the coolest space photos of all time. This looks like an artist made it with CGI. I feel like this is concept art from Interstellar. Oh my gosh. What makes the M64 Galaxy so impressive to look at and worthy enough to throw on this terrifying list is the way that it moves. Ooh, the way it moves is just so... Gas on the inner galaxy rotates in one direction, and the outer layer spins the, well, you guessed it, opposite way. This is odd behavior for a galaxy. Scientists theorize that the Evil Eye Galaxy, Sleeping Beauty Galaxy, is the result of two galaxies crashing into one another. The fascinating thing really is we're looking at something 17 million light years away. So this image of the Evil Eye Galaxy, Sleeping Beauty, is actually from a long time ago, most likely. Mind-bending, right? Space is pretty mind-bending. Also terrifying. That's why the James Webb is such a big deal. We're gonna see very far into our past, theoretically. No one really knows what's gonna happen. He's just gonna look and, oh, dinosaurs. Number 4, gamma bursts. Somebody give Bruce Banner a heads up because we got a lot of gamma. We have so much gamma. When we look at extinction level events like say, I don't know, a meteor smashing into the planet, we can bounce back from that. Humans, evidently. I mean, look at us. We're doing lists now. We're like, hey, subscribe, hit that thumbs up. I mean, sure, we lost some dinosaurs along the way, but millions of years later, we're here, we're popping. But when it comes to gamma rays hitting the planet, yeah, we're not so lucky at that point. We can't bounce back from that one. If a gamma ray happened any time in our past, be it millions of years ago, we still wouldn't be here. Gamma rays happen when stars explode in distant galaxies. See, light and energy then shoots out along with gamma rays, radio waves, neutrinos, just a cosmic cosmo, all that good space stuff just shook up and then blasted at you. But then these gamma rays would travel light years through space, and if they were to hit Earth, our ozone layer would be toast, just gone forever, just like that. We would be engulfed in chemical smog forever. No bouncing back from that at any point. Or if we did bounce back from it, we'd be lizards or something, you know? We'd be lizard people. Walking around, a bunch of licky dudes, just breathing on people. That'd be okay. Number 3, supernova. For this next one, we'll be looking at Betelgeuse. And no, I don't mean Michael Keaton, although he's pretty scary. I don't want to say it 3 times. I'm keeping count just to be safe. I'm talking about the red giant located in the Orion constellation. It began to dim back in 2019, which is not a great sign. Its decay would be quite noticeable here on Earth. For example, the last time a star went supernova and we were able to observe it, the last time was 1604, and that was the Kepler star. It was beautiful and bright for weeks. Even during the day, we could still see it. All day long, people are like, that's gotta be pretty annoying, huh? Can't wait for that one. But when Betelgeuse finally dims out of existence, you have to wonder if we're far enough to be safe. Which sunscreen is good for solar flares? You know what I'm talking about? Like, I freckle up as is. I'm screwed if this happens. Scientists agree that we need to be much closer for the radiation to actually cause harm, but scientists also tell us quite often about these wandering stars and how black holes will just appear out of nowhere. So who really knows? Betelgeuse. Number 2, the sun. While it's not recommended we stare at it, the sun is pretty beautiful. Living in Canada, we're just now seeing it maybe a little bit, just a tad, fingers crossed. No, not really at all, I guess. It's a terrible idea to look at the sun, especially through a telescope, so we don't recommend that at all. Thankfully, we have photographer Andrew McCarthy to help out. Andrew layered together 150,000 different photos of the sun to create this 300 megapixel image for us to safely look at. I opened this photo on my phone and my phone literally got hot. I was like, wow, this is a great photo. I can actually feel it. It's so nice. Next time you're outside and it's hot, just remember that this scary thing is floating above you. Think of that next time you're getting your tan lines. In order to not go blind or, you know, light any fires in his home, Andrew required a special telescope with numerous filters. So if you're thinking of pointing your phone or telescope at the sun today, just don't do that. It's like the magnifying glass trick with the sun. Yeah, just fires 101. It's all bad. Don't even try. And finally, number 1, James Webb. Our boy James Webb. What's he doing? What's he up to right now? Let's always check out on him. I told you I'd be back with more. While we patiently wait for James Webb to look deeper into our cosmos, I figured I'd leave you on a fun one. Also kind of scary though. Both the James Webb Space Telescope and the European Space Agency's Gaia spacecraft both orbit the Earth and the Sun's Lagrange point 2. So they both drift in between the two space giants, and on February 18th, a month ago, literally, like this was so recent, Gaia actually managed to get an image of James Webb, just hanging out. Now look, I thought deep sea photos were hard to look at and like scary. This is another level. This is scary. Check it out. Around 930,000 miles away, James Webb just sits there and floats. And he waits to take photos of life and just anything. Just a little photographer, just floating out there. Very little reflected sunlight came Gaia's way, and Webb therefore appears as a tiny faint speck of light in Gaia's two telescopes without any details visible. That's the official statement on finding James Webb. They're like, well, it was right there. We saw it. It was just little. This spacecraft also isn't meant to be a telescope, in case you're wondering. It has a sky mapper on board, but the Gaia is originally meant to track celestial objects' positions and distances, all that, technical jargon. Imagine James Webb taking a photo back. It would be so HD. It's like 8K, he's like, turn around. What?
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have Tsingy National Park. Tsingy National Park is located on the western edge of Madagascar, but today I want to talk about the two large geographical features in the park, which are Big Tsingy and Little Tsingy. Tsingy can be translated into English as roughly where one cannot walk barefoot, and when you see this place, you'll realize this name makes a lot of sense. These rock formations are plateaus that have had deep ruts cut into them by groundwater, which has left them totally unable to be walked on or through. This whole area is incredibly fascinating and is the home to many endemic species because of its unusual geomorphology. Some of these species are found only within extremely small areas within the Tsingys because the summit, slope, and base of one limestone needle will all form entirely different ecosystems, which is truly just unbelievable. The Tsingys are a perfect example of what happens when humans just leave a place alone and let nature and the earth just exist. It would be an amazing place to go and explore, but because of the nature of the limestone needles, we just can't. And that truly is probably for the best. In our number 9 spot today, we have Lake Vostok. Before I dive into this one, guys, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you're enjoying the video. It really helps us out, and I appreciate it. Many of us have heard of Atlantis, but have you heard of Lake Vostok? Okay, there's probably no underwater city, so maybe that was an exaggeration, but it's still really cool. This lake is located in Antarctica, and it is so huge. It's one of the largest lakes in the entire world. The lake not only has a large surface area, but it's also really deep, which only adds to the volume of the lake. So here's the thing about it though. It is covered by ice, and not just any ice, but by the East Antarctic ice sheet, which is just the largest ice sheet in the world. This subglacial lake has ice so thick that we don't know a lot about what lies beneath it, and the ice has been there for millions of years. When the first samples of the actual lake water were taken, it did become very apparent that there may be many species in the lake that we know absolutely nothing about. This is like the most lakey lake out there, and it could be hiding who knows how many secrets. In our number 8 spot today, we have the Star Mountains of Papua New Guinea. This massive mountain range is located in Papua New Guinea, and although we of course know about it, much of the area remains completely untouched by humans. This area is thought to be one of the wettest places on the earth, as it sees more than 10,000 millimeters of rain every year. At that point, you wonder why they're still measuring in millimeters, but hey, I'm not a weatherman. Due to the rain and just how torrential the downpour is, there isn't a spot in the entire range that can house a weather station. There was an attempt made to explore the range in 1959 by a man named Jan Sneap, who wanted to try and map out the area, and it was slightly successful, but not without struggle. During the expedition, they had 2 helicopters, but due to the altitudes, one of them ended up crashing, and they were forced to rely on their own manpower from then on. While this of course would suggest that humans have at some point visited the mountain range, as I previously mentioned, there are most definitely areas that remain unvisited by humans, and it's probably for the best if we just leave it that way. In our number 7 spot today, we have Death Road. North Youngest Road has the nickname Death Road, and honestly, when you just look at it, you can totally understand why. This 69-kilometer road is full of hairpin turns and of course, It's on the side of a mountain. Not to mention the fog, landslides, and the waterfalls. It was so dangerous that until 1994, there were at least 300 drivers a year who were getting killed on this road. This road connects the Amazon rainforest to the capital city, so it was happening often that salespeople would cram into trucks or buses filled with their woods and crops in order to try and sell them. The issue, however, was that the sharp turns were not wide enough for these larger vehicles, which would, of course, lead to them falling off the edge of the cliff, which was always fatal. There have certainly been steps taken to make the road slightly more safe for tourists, but it still remains one of the most dangerous places in the world. It is such a shame though, because it looks absolutely beautiful. In our number 6 spot today, we have the Sakha Republic. Russia is the largest country in the world, but there is an area in it called the Sakha Republic, which is the 8th largest territory in the world, and it remains mostly untouched by humans. Like, this area is so large, it's only slightly smaller than India. The majority of this territory is above the Arctic Circle, making it basically like a desert, except for exactly the opposite. It's the freezing cold kind. There is so little of a population in this area that if all the residents were spread out, there would be more than a square mile in between each person. But here's the thing, you can't really live in most of this region. I mean, you can, but not without extreme difficulty. The ground is covered by permafrost, which of course has a huge impact on the ecology of the region. The Verkhoyansk range is located within this region, and that range is known as the coldest area in the northern hemisphere. Because of the extreme weather, much of the region has gone unexplored and untouched by man. And honestly, I can completely understand why. Would you want to go there? In our number 5 spot today, we have the Siwa Oasis. Siwa is an urban oasis between the Qattara Depression and the Great Sand Sea in the Western Desert. This oasis is one of Egypt's most isolated settlements, but it is the home to around 33,000 people. The residents have developed a unique and isolated desert culture and language called Siwi, but they are also fluent in the Egyptian dialect of Arabic. The oasis isn't necessarily a super popular tourist destination, as the closest city is Cairo, and the oasis is around a 5-hour bus ride away and is of course in the middle of the desert, but those who do take the trip certainly aren't disappointed. If visiting, you can enjoy some locally grown dates and olives, which I can only imagine are incredible. You can swim in Cleopatra's Bath, which is a mineral spring, and you can even stay at the Desert Eco Lodge, which is built from mud and salt. Tourism is actually a vital source of income for the oasis, so visitors are welcomed. Because of how isolated Siwa is, the culture and the traditions of the people who live here really have been preserved, which would make it such an interesting and wonderful place to visit. If I ever get the incredible opportunity of going to Egypt, I think Siwa would be on the top of my list for places to visit. In our number 4 spot today, we have Itorkotami. This town is located in one of the most remote areas of Greenland and actually requires a helicopter ride from the nearest airport in order to actually get to the town. Its modern discovery came quite recently, actually, in 1925 by a Danish polar explorer and around 80 Inuit settlers, and it is about as far as you can get from any other inhabited area in Greenland. Despite this recent settling, based on ruins and other archaeological remains, it became clear that this area was once inhabited sometime in our history by Inuit populations of the past. There's around 450 residents now, and the town is known for its wildlife that includes polar bears, musk oxen, and seals. This place can be a popular tourist destination because of the stunning northern lights as well as all of the other natural wonders. Cruise ships also love to stop here, but that can be a little tricky considering 9 months out of the year sea ice will block any ship from docking. In our number 3 spot today, we have Cape Melville. Cape Melville is located in Australia, and it is the home to one of the lost worlds here on Earth. It truly wasn't discovered until recently, and that is due to the surrounding wall of granite boulders that are hundreds of feet tall. But inside this stone wall is an amazing, mysterious, and uncharted rainforest, which is just the coolest thing. Because of the more recent discovery and the lack of exploration, this area has been preserved in its natural state, which is something that's not easily found on our super populated planet. This place is only accessible by helicopter and has only seen one major scientific exploration, but on this one adventure, at least 3 new species were found. I'm sure there will be further research of of the area to learn about all of the endemic species that live here and to study how they evolved to fit in this interesting ecosystem. The Earth really is just so cool. In our number 2 spot today, we have the Son Doong Cave. This cave is located in Vietnam and it is the largest cave in the world. The name means the river mountain cave, and it was created somewhere between 2 to 5 million years ago from river water eroding away the limestone. In some areas of the cave, the ceiling collapsed, which has created these insanely cool skylights. These areas have allowed many plants and trees to grow, and it has definitely increased the vegetation in a cave. The cave is around 9 kilometers long, and it is the home to the tallest known stalagmites in the world, with these mineral deposits getting up to around 70 meters tall. There was a plan to install a cable car through the cave to create a tourist attraction, but thankfully those plans were cancelled due to the potential harm that it would cause the environment, which I personally think most of us can agree was for the best. In our number 1 spot today, we have Mount Bosavi. This mountain is located in the Southern Highlands province of Papua New Guinea, but it is actually the collapsed cone of an extinct volcano. I didn't know that volcanoes could be extinct. This volcano actually collapsed to create a crater that is around 4 kilometers wide and 1 kilometer deep. There isn't a ton that is known about this area, but in 2009, an international team of scientists went down there on an expedition that was entirely filmed by the BBC Natural History Unit. It is believed that this crater was created around 200,000 years ago, and during the crew's time researching the area, there were 40 new species that were uncovered as the crater has its very own fascinating isolated ecosystem. Who knows what more may be down there just waiting for us to uncover.